Good afternoon, everyone. We are here in the Master for Collective Housing in Madrid, and this is a model about low-cost and emergency shelter. So we have worked about all these themes, and now the students will present their works. So we had 6 groups working in 3 different countries: Pakistan, Jordan, and Colombia. And each of these countries, they have like 2 themes. One about natural disaster, displacement in natural disaster, floods, and the other about refugees. So we will start the presentation. The first will be Pakistan and people displaced because of floods. Okay, so I will pass the group to start.
Hello everyone, my name is Beenal. I am from India. He is Ignacio and he is Beltran, and we are representing the emergency housing for flood affected people from Pakistan. The settlement that we are presenting is Batkela, are from the Batkela town, which is in Malakand district. It is in the northwest part of Pakistan, and as you see, this is where the settlement is. It is in near Swat River. So there, during 2010, there was flood in that river, which was a very disastrous flood, and it almost ruined complete settlement. So we are targeting that part of Pakistan, and the climate of this place is, it has a lot of rainfall. The terrain is very mountainous, and we have, it is they have a lot of cold during the winters, and the temperature rises till only 30 degrees, but they have a lot of rainfall in this region. And we will talk. This also falls under the earthquake zone. They have the problems of earthquake as well as the floods in this region. Now we will talk about the topography.
Talking about the earthquakes, they had an earthquake after the floods in 2015, so they were damaged twice. Here we can see the province of Batkela, and as you can see, it's a very crowded village with this river that, as Binal told us, is an affluent from the Indus River, and is one of the greatest river of the world. And this flood causes problems in almost every part of Pakistan. So here we can see this is the river Swat, that's the affluent, and all this part is like the Nilo, no? It gets like inundated, and in that moment it took a lot. It covered it went up like 5 meters. So imagine all these houses. So our hypothesis is like 5,000 people displaced because they have to restore the houses. They have to rebuild them, a lot of them, because of the construction. Here we can see all this terrain is agriculture, so there is because there is a lot of risk of building there. So we try to find a place here, but the topography, as you see in this other plan, it has a lot of mountains also, so it's not a good place to build in the mountains. And we found a place here near the city, but with only agriculture terrains. And we studied, as they are people that want to live close to the city, what services do we have already near to, because we won't need them in the camp that we are building. It's a temporary camp, and perhaps a lot of uses, like the mosque is very close. There are 2 mosques like 500 meters away from our plot. There are several schools, 1.4 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and we have also 2 hospitals, market, bus station, police. So it will be most like a residential plot for us, just for sleeping, cooking, and for the children, the small children stay there. But perhaps the adults will work and also will try to recover their houses. I don't know if you can.
We also did a research of the culture and the construction materials that they have, and we found that in their houses it is very common to have courtyards. So they have like an interior courtyard, and then the units around this courtyard. And also regarding the materials, Pakistan is one of the biggest exporters of cement. They also have steel and wood, but the wood, it's right now they only have like 5% of the forests, because they have been using it a lot. And they also use stones and sand and straw. With the sand and straw, they create these bricks that they also use it for the constructions of the houses. And it is very common to have very big families, because they are allowed to marry more than one woman, and so yeah. Yeah, they live in extended families. So sometimes there are families of 12 members or 6, 8. So this was something that we had to take into account to then move to the part of the project. All of these cultural and construction aspects were taken into account for the project that we develop.
Also in their culture, it is very. They are very strict about the division of spaces. The women are mostly in the rear part of the house, and the men are the one who are always in the front part of the house. So we have also taken this into consideration in our design, because we wanted them to be comfortable with their living style in the camp. So we have targeted 3 kinds of families, that is extended families that are large families, more than 12 people, medium families that are between 6 to 12 people, small families which are nuclear family, which are less than 6 people. The individual women who might have lost their husbands, they might have children with them, but maybe living away from the family, single men, and the orphans. We are not considering orphans as the major part, but there are few who might have lost their parents. So after this, we go to the design. While designing, we were considering how the module can grow, how an individual module can be placed into various ways, and it can grow. So that is why we decided to have a module of 4.27 by 4.27, which can cater to 4 people according to minimum standards of 3.5 square meters per person, because we have almost all our activities outside the camp. We are not including any major activities inside the camp. So according to that, we have provided this basic module, and this is the module for a single family. And if the family increases, the member increases, the module can keep on adding. So as you see, we have, this is for the single family, this is for the individual people, this is for medium family, a large family, we wanted them to be together and not dividing them, like giving one sector for single family, one for medium, and one for large families. We wanted them to be together so that they can feel the environment they used to feel in their settlement here in the camp. So this is a basic, like this is the main access. This are how the modules are joined. If this you want to convert into 2 small families, you just have to add on a member in between. In the front is the entrance, and in the rear is the kitchen where the female spend most of their time. So after the cluster, we have created a block module in which all the kitchen spaces are connected, making a plaza where the children can play here and the women can work in the kitchen space, leaving this courtyard, central courtyard, open for the activities for men and other family activities.
Yeah, we also were considering this idea of the courtyard that they are used to have in their own places. So we made the cluster thinking of this, thinking in these situations, and that was our starting point. Then we start creating this module in a bigger scale. So from this module we move to the cluster, to the block, and then to the master plan. Regarding to the constructive technique that we are using, we decide to use steel perforated square tubes because it's a material that is very durable, and also they also produce it. Actually, there is a company that produce this kind of material that is like 200 kilometers away from Barquela, so it will be easy, the transportation and everything. And this perforated square tube has the ability to be connected to other tubes by having these metal, these angle sections that can be joined by using bolts. So it's very manual. You don't need like electricity, or you don't need a lot of expertise for being able to join 2 pieces, and the basic module is pretty simple. We are using this steel perforated square tube, also CGI sheets, and tarpaulin for covering the whole module.
For space.
That's we were thinking that if the time gets longer and they have to spend more time in the camp for any reason, then we can add this EPS sandwich panel. It's already modulated in a way that they can be added to this module, because they are 61 centimeters the width of every panel. So this was like our idea of the structure. Then we add some concrete foundations that could be like precast blocks that they just can put them on site, and then with they can adapt the structure to the foundation. And for the floor, we decide to use plywood. And then on top of the plywood, they can put like a carpet or things like that they are used to have in their own houses. And we made a budget of this, considering all the materials and also the mattresses that they are going to use. We have four mattresses for this module, and the budget. This is like the basic module with everything. Our budget was $795 per module, and for 4 people. Yeah, this was our approach in the construction technique. And now we can move a little bit further into the master planning.
Changing a little bit the scale. Now we talk about the unit, we talk about the courtyard, also how these communal spaces with kitchen are built with those unifying 3 blocks. And then we have to also the latrines. We thought to put it in these places. Here we can see the position of these latrines, very close to the modules, no more than 40 meters from each house. And then we changed this scale to that one and try to form these little courtyards in big open spaces where they can socialize, and they have all these units. They have these open spaces. Also,
to add something about this, about the courtyards, we were creating different courtyards at different scales. This would be like the first scale of the courtyard. Then we have here another kind of courtyard or gathering space, and then in the bigger scales we create some other courtyards. So we were thinking a lot of these community spaces in different scales. One's more private, and one's more private, and the others like more public ones.
An important thing for us was the plot, and to try to be respectful with the rivers we had there. That they're mostly dry, but we can see that there is always greenery. So perhaps if it rains, also we have to respect those green zones in the project. We put this big road that can be is connected with the main road that connects to Batquila, and then we made this big road that can still grow if the camp needs more people. It can grow that way and also that way. So with this, it's like a big spine, and then we connect these blocks with the open areas, as we can see. Also, we took account the how do you say, the topography of the terrain, to be respectful with that, and to connect in these spaces some public areas like storage, perhaps a clinic, and public uses for the people. No, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we also have the cattle.
We have also considered that these people are farmers who have displaced from the agriculture field. So we have also considered the placement for the cattle. So even on this orange spaces, the negative spaces that we have on the land will be semi-covered for the cattle, where they can put their cattle and they can have a space inside. Yeah, and then we also have considered that we need parking inside the settlement, because they are not too far to get to drive to this place. So this almost a flat land can be also catered as the parking space for the settlement.
That's why the roads here, we can see that we put in here the latrines. We could make in this plaza to make the roads work in the perimeter and stay this another here we can see, and the latrines would be sharing these 4 blocks. It's like 250 people in each. When we have 8 blocks is for 120, 130, and then 4 blocks, and 8 blocks is 250. So they share more or less. This is for 250 people. No, this kind of latrines. Here we can see an image of what could it be the sensation, no, the ambience of the atmosphere that is very used with cars, very practic and a temporal shelter. And if you have any questions now, we can perhaps we can help you.
Do you have any questions? We are thinking that it's...
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes. So, do you think we can go ask them on the? Yes. Okay.
To ask now.
Okay then. Okay.
Okay. I just want to clarify, because you have been speaking about the latrines, and so how many latrines have you put in each of this block, and what is actually, is it latrine, is it water point, is it shower? Can you explain a little bit more, because it's not reflected in your presentation?
Yeah. These are the different, this is like the blocks that we have for the latrines. So this block would be like one of these is blue blocks. So we have here two blocks that these ones are going to be shared by more or less of 250 people. So we put these spaces to be like shared for. And we were considering like nine or 10 showers and toilets. Yeah, one space is for women, and the other one is for men.
We have provided one latrine and one shower space between 10 to 15 people. So it's like 250 people will have more or less 16 to 18 showers and 16 to 18 latrines.
So it's like twice of the standard.
Yes.
We made it a little bit.
Because on standard says 25, but then we have provided more or less with 15 sharing one space. And actually we do not have the plan of other, this is for the men, but we also have for the women, the extended porch space. We have an extended spot space for them, for where we have the sink and for the laundry, because they do not have machines for the laundry. They do the laundry on their own. So we have the water point there, which actually we have not shown here. But yeah, it's the same, but where we have provided them the water point outside in the open space, where they can have enough area to do the laundry.
Also the system, as they use water for cleaning and also for the toilet, we thought that the best way is with septic tanks for each module like that, and prefabricated septic tanks that could be taken from Islamabad, for example, and they can be rented for 3 months, and they just have to make the hole and put it there, and the water. And perhaps, I don't know, I think in 3 months it will last. They won't be needed to be removed. 3 months is okay, and afterwards they can be used in another camp. They should be closed. They should be close to these toilets, and then to have the water that comes out from there can be used for the agriculture, and is already depurated.
What's the water system? Where are the water points?
The water points in here in the same.
So they have to go there.
Yeah, because it's very close. It's very close. We thought that to put water in each courtyard, it would be much more expensive. It will increase a lot the budget. So we thought it's better to get to share all this water thing in the same point.
No, we were wondering whether to change, or we'll finish with this group much better. We weren't sure what to do. Well, let me 10 seconds. Yes. I think I'm going to talk about the strengths and the weakness. I think it's, for me, it's easier to go on different topics. Okay. I think, and I'm sure you know it, that your strength is the module you have worked with in the 3 different scales, maybe. But I think one of the weaknesses you have is the site plan, because you didn't have much more time to work on that, perhaps. But above all, I think the weakest part of the process is the access to basic services that, in fact, Sonia has asked you, and I think that it's the thing you haven't worked enough on. Considering from the beginning, I mean, I think it's a strength the work you did together with the other group on the site selection. I think, and that's why I was thinking that we will wait to your presentations. This is to share for both groups, okay? I think you did a good work because you consider all things we should think about when we are thinking of site selection, okay? And in your case, I think the study you have done about the culture, I mean the context, it has also helped you with your main proposal. I think the study of the family composition, it's quite current. There is a lot of currents between your study on families and with your proposals, and you have done a moduled proposal that it fits quite well, I think, to the different compositions, and it's because you have studied it and you think and you are betting somehow on keeping the families together, and it's people that have been affected by a flood, and then they can still live together with the families or even with the neighbors. Okay, so well, that's the main strength, as I told you. And now I miss the technical solutions on access to water and how the latrines are the latrines and the showers. I mean, in that part you have talked about the septic tank, but I think you didn't have enough time to calculate to see how big it's a septic tank for 10 showers, 10 latrines, and where is it placed, and what you have to consider. More things you haven't worked on. That's as I told you. It's for me. It's a pity. You have thought of the kitchen. I don't know what's the energy they are going to use for the kitchen. For example, it's one of the things we were talking before we started that perhaps it's too huge the challenge we have. Ask you, all of you, I mean, to work on a lot of things, but I think you have to, if we want you to think of a shelter proposal, you have to think on the other scales, because if not, we are sure that the shelter solution wouldn't be good enough. Okay, so well, but we have 8 days, that's what we have.
I would like to say something about that. Here, they generally have a stove made up of mud, and they have the wood for the cooking. And for electricity, actually, we thought they have a lot of wind here. The climate is very windy, so we thought that we get this small wind catchers which generate windmills, which generate like electricity. So you get it in the market, and you can just put it on the individual unit, and it can keep on generating keep on generating energy for you. Because actually we did not actually get time to research more about it, but it was an idea that we can use it to provide them with the small units of windmills, and then they can just put it on their roof and then keep on generating energy to use inside the cluster.
They can reuse it also afterwards
when they go back to the settlement. And also using the steel structure was especially used because once they are done with the camp, when the camp is about to resolve, they can take the structures, they take these elements to build the structures in their houses, because this can be reusable, recyclable, and can fit into any activity they want to, any space they want to create in their original houses. So that was the idea behind using this.
Thank you. Okay, I completely agree with what Belen was saying. What I think is that you have thought about all the things, What I think it's a weakness is your presentation, because you haven't reflected anything of that. And it's really a pity, because I think you have thought about all this. So you've taken one A1 to do the analysis that you have done very well, but then you didn't have a sufficient space to, yeah, so, and it's a pity, because the important thing, the technical things are missing here, and I think you have thought about it somehow. I mean, maybe not in a very detailed way, but at least you have it in your mind, because you are answering all the questions. So, and it's a pity that it's not reflected in your site plan, all these thoughts. I mean, all the toilets, the drainage, the water, everything that. I think it's really a pity. But well, I agree with Belen that your strength here is the blocks and the houses and how it is reflected, all the culture. I mean, because you have done a very good analysis of all this. So yeah, yeah. So it's okay, but very well done. It's really great. Thank you.
Okay, hello, I am Carla, this is Akash and Raven, and we also have Pakistan, but we have Afghanistan refugees, okay? So our site selection is gonna be the same one as the other Pakistan group, so I'm not gonna mention what they just mentioned right now. I'm just going to add a few facts about Afghanistan refugees. Our site is located, it's not so far away from the borderline. It's like 100 kilometers away. And there have been a series of waves of refugees in Pakistan because they have had so many wars and so many, it was like the Soviet invasion, and then the pre-Taliban, post-Taliban, and then final with the US bombing. They also had another big flee to Pakistan, so they have had this series of immigrants, and lately I think it was 2018, that the Pakistan Prime Minister said that he would give that he would give citizenship to 1.5 million refugees, Afghanistan refugees. So there came like a lot of refugees, and then some of them went back right away, but the ones that stayed have a lot of fear of going back, so they are pretty much stable or permanent refugees. So that's why our solution was to give them a more permanent home. So when we designed, we did think about making it more permanent than just like emergency, like it was the case with the floods. So there still remains today like 2 million refugees in Pakistan. So also two facts that really made us think about when we were designing was, like they already mentioned, it was first of all the fertility in Muslim women. So average, each woman has about 5.5 kids. So we're talking about big families. And also about the violence, domestic violence. There is like a 60% chance that a woman has had some type of domestic violence.
So coming to the design units model that we have thought of giving it very basic and very natural as possible. So coming to the site, when it's a plain site, we have basic materials such as wood and sand as the first use, where we thought of giving just the roof structure with the wood and the corrugated sheet first to be installed on the side, and then we have this thing of introducing sandbags as making them for the walls. So once they have this roof installed with wooden trusses and steel corrugated sheets, they can fill up the sands. Each sack can have 25 kilos of sand, and we were thinking even to have, as it is a rocky terrain, they have even the debris of stone and chiplets, so they can mix it together and they can form 25 kilos of weight, which can be stacked in evenly, as we see in the design units that we are going to give, and we are just going to give openings on the either side, having a door and a window, and it's going to be stacked vertically with a barbed wire, so that eventually in certain cases, like it's an earthquake zone, so when it is prone to earthquake, it doesn't tip off so easily. So we are going to stack them by barbed wire, and as we have thought of on the whole site, as we can see, it is also on a topographic condition. We even thought of having just 20 centimeters of the whole site to be used for filling up sands. So just considering one unit block, the one unit needs 900 sandbags for constructing this whole module, and with that we have steel pipes going all the way down to the rain collection pit, where we also have this idea of collecting the water per unit, so that eventually when it's raining so much, they can use that water for their own personal vegetation, which is on the backyard of the home, where they can use it to grow some basic farming and some basic vegetables for their own uses. And the other thing that we thought while using the sandbag is that we were actually thinking of using up the sand from the roads, so it gradually makes it lower than the units, so that there's a level difference automatically, because it's prone to floods and heavy rains. So we need a bit of slope so as to protect the units from getting flooded. So this is how we basically got together with the basic unit model, and in the further site plan.
For the site plan, we thought about how these people is gonna come in phases and in waves. So the first thing, we have like 4 big hangars, which can cater for many refugees at the same time. Temporarily, when they start building their houses, they started moving out of these hangars and living inside of the blocks. So the blocks, each block houses 18 units, and it has a front door to the road and a back door to a small courtyard, which is only exclusive for the women, because in Afghanistan it's a patriarchal community, so socially the men will gather in the big spaces. So we thought about giving like a small courtyard just for the women. And the other 2 hangars are for daycare centers and the administrations. And we thought about when we have like we take advantage of the whole site, we have like a huge areas for agriculture where these men can work and produce and make money out of being a refugee meanwhile. And yes, and this is like a sketch showing the man part, which is very big, and the small backyard for the women, and how people can, by digging part of the road, they can start building their own houses by filling the sandbags and putting them easily. And this is the structure. So we have the corrugated sheet, as Akash mentioned. Then we have the steel structure, and we have the walls here, and on top of the walls they can put like wooden ribs and place in between them maybe lighter sandbags, which can be filled with agricultural waste or stuff like this. And these are like renders from the backyard. This is like from the front yard, so they have access to the road and access to the backyard, because in domestic violent communities, it's always preferable to have 2 doors. So if the woman wants to run, she always has like another door to run from. And we're forgetting something. Okay.
Another thing that we also have on site, that we have even considered age groups from the children to older people. As far as the children are concerned, they have to indulge in different activities, so as to have recreational activities. So we even introduce some places like these courtyards where they can play, and as they have they can play cricket or they can play India sports to get themselves engaged in throughout the day when there is nothing else to do, when they are building the shelter or when they are just when they just have nothing to do. So we have administrations also units, and we also have places for them to congregate and play. So I think in this way we have maintained to give all the age groups their own activities in their personalized way.
And one very important thing, this is the unit. Each unit has like a small bath and like a toilet, and has a washing place where the women can wash. So first, each like 4 modules can share one, but meanwhile they can start building their own latrines, and this one, which was shared, can be included with the module which is right in front of it, and then it closes and have its own fence. So this is really important because these people can stay up to many years. So constructing a latrine out of sandbags, which can cost like $100 for the sandbags, and the rest is for the septic tank and the pipes. So it's really important to have each one have their own. And one more thing, the water grid, which is you can see here in blue. It comes from, as our colleagues mentioned, from the canal, which is from the other side of the mountain. But we also have the water collection on the roof. That's why the shape of the roof is started by a slope, and then to slow down the rain and be collected inside the lot.
That's why we also did the idea of the double roof, because the first one, the steel, serves for the water recollection and it's very, very good for waterproof. But we also needed an isolator because the climate here it can get really cold. So the walls are also a good insulator because they're like 35-36 centimeters thick. And they're very stable, so even though we're in a seismic zone, they can stand that.
That's it.
That's it.
I have first. Sorry. Why did you start with explaining the shelter solution instead of beginning with the site selection and the urban and the module and the block plan somehow? Because it's suppose we have asked you to start from the urban, somehow the urban planning, and then after that you had to go to the shelter solution. In fact, you have started, I didn't know if you have changed, and the first idea of the urban module you were working with, or you have thought about, had changed because of the shelter solution. That's why, no?
Because this part is more related to the module. So it would be like storytelling, because this part is talking about the weather, the domestic violence, the location. So maybe we started by solving these in the module, and then we generated it to the site plan.
Okay, thank you. I thought the module had changed because of the shelter solution. Okay, well now. I think you share some weakness with the other group. I mean, I miss again the access to basic to services. I mean, you have talked about at the end about the water rights. Okay, I mean, but right, the net. But I don't know what's the latrines solution, if they will have latrines or not, if they will be connected. You have talked about it. No, I know. We know where is it, but what's the technical solution? I mean, you had, I don't know if it's a buried latrine, it's ventilated or not. I mean, you had to think about quite a lot of things. Perhaps that has been one of the challenge. I mean, I told. Okay.
As you have seen that this is the latrines that we have, the commodes or anything for the waste. These the grids that we have, they are the first preliminary disposal channels that we have. That connects to the main sewer lines, which directly disposes all the waste directly to the river. So we thought of not having it as a septic size as a solution, because there might be due to the floods and due to the rains, the septic tanks might just overflow. So we were thinking of giving the pipes directly the opening inside directly to the river.
Without treatment?
No, yeah, because it's mostly no, but it's mostly, if you see, mostly the treatment is doesn't vary much, because it doesn't need more of that, because it's already quite as you can see. In India as well as in Pakistan, it directly channels out directly into the river. They do not need a preliminary treatment or something. They just throw it outside in the river.
I'm sorry, I think they need it.
Yeah, they need it, but for the septic tanks that we are saying, we do not have septic tanks. We are just directing it outside in the river. That's all. Yeah. We have to change, but yes. Yeah.
You don't think the solution is black water to the river, please?
Yeah, we can treat them. Yeah, we can treat them, but we are we are opening it out in the river after treating. Of course, we not thought about it. We are not thought about it, but we are directing it outside the river directly. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Please, if not, we have a problem. Go. So, yeah. Well, and one strength. I think after different technical solutions you were thinking about about shelter, I think we share the opinion you got a good solution when you thought about the sandbags, and then you had to think, then you go on working with that idea. I think you found a good solution. I don't know, I'm not sure, and we told you already on Wednesday that the roof solution was, I'm not sure, I think it could be much better, and you could have done it, because you would have done it much better. But I think it's a good solution that it's adapted to the context, to all the things you had to consider. But did you calculate? I don't know do you know how? Okay, please, because we asked them to calculate how much earth they will need to build.
And where are they taking it from?
Okay.
You want me to?
Yeah.
Everything can take.
Okay.
Take out from the road.
Okay. So each unit has 900 bags, and each bag is around 25 kilograms. But the volume of each bag is 0.0225 cubic meters. And if we no, it's okay. If we multiply this volume by 900, it will be 18 cubic meters. And 18 cubic meters is, if we dig this site, for example, it will be digging 20 centimeters. It's nothing. And if we dig, for example, the canal here, on the width of 6 meters, it will be digging a canal of, let's say, 2 meters by 1.5. So 6 times 2 is 12 times 1.5, it's 18 cubic meters. That's it.
Can I say something? Okay, so basically what Raven said was that if they take the dirt from their own land, the level would be below for 20 centimeters. But we didn't want to do that because of the so much rain. So they would flood. So that's why we would ask them to take the soil from only from the roads, so that the roads would be eventually level lower than their own homes, and if it rains, it would go to the road. Yeah?
It's just that when I think, as Belén was saying, that it's a very good solution. I mean, adapted to the context. I mean, for this context and this specific area, I think it's a good and cheap, very cheap, and very flexible solution. But you always. It doesn't matter what type of solution you take. I mean, the environment, the impact on the environment, you have to take it into account. So it's just that all groups have it in mind that whatever you do, you have to check as well all the environmental impact. So this is very important, and make a plan for it and everything. As Belén was saying, and the other group, I said the same thing. I think there's a lot of missing in your presentation that you have thought of, and it's not reflected as such, and it's a pity, actually. Also, the cooking system, where they cook, and all the things about the drainage, how the drainage goes. I mean, it could have been reflected better in the site planning. It's very positive that you have thought about the phases, the different phases, in the shelters and in the site plans. And yeah, I think that's it.
I miss more things. I mean, I don't know why you don't have dimensions, or at least I don't see them. We know how big, what are the dimensions for the shelter solution, nor even for the plot. I don't know why we don't have a module plan, not with a plot, because just to have, we are somehow we are jumping from the shelter scale to the site scale. We have that image there, but it's I cannot guess. I don't know if you know what I mean. I miss this scale. Why we don't have a plan where we can see how the plots are. You have missed. We have seen it when we have worked in class. So and I don't know why you have missed here. That's why Sonia was saying, well, we are missing some information you had work on, and we had talked about it a lot. And now you forgot to tell us and to put it. And it's really important to talk about that and to understand the different scales you were talking about with these the relations with these things and what happened with the block. And now we don't know. We don't know what's the size plot. We don't know it. Okay. I can tell you. Yes, no, we know, but don't forget that this is these are the results you are giving us, and not only for us. It are your results. Okay, then it's a pity. That's for me. It's a pity because you had much more work.
2 A1s weren't enough.
And they weren't enough. Okay. So you have to prioritize. You have to prioritize. Well, what information is important?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very good.
Hello, my name is Alejandra, Yolanda, Santiago, and Han, and we are working in Jordan with developing an IDP camp. So our challenge was to find or develop an emergency camp in response to a flash flood that occurred in Jordan. So they had to be relocated to Mafraq. So the way we started approaching to the problem was understanding what were the main elements that we would need to find the perfect spot to to start this camp. So looking at the context, connectivity, so a place that had access to main highways, that was close to hospitals because there might be people injured, close to universities, close to the main city center, because when there's an emergency such as a flood, people would want to continue going to their work, their study places. So it's mainly very supposed to be very temporal, not long term, but short term, a short term solution. So based on all this, we decided to locate our plot where the circle is placed there, where you can see here in a zoom, we're in between two main highways. We have the hospital right next to us. We have the main university, and it's easily accessed. So as a strategy, we thought we're gonna have two main access routes, and we're talking in terms to having access to services like food, if there's an emergency, if people need to get in and out. In terms of how this is gonna grow, we were thinking on a first stage, people were gonna be placed on probably inside of the city, so schools and whatever, while this is placed for the first day. So everything is gonna grow from this center, which is gonna be our logistics center. Here we're gonna set up our main water supply or waste management area, a health center, and a warehouse. So going back to this will be the main point where people would access. So there will be control points at these four main entrances, and then from here we would distribute to everyone. Going from there, we started looking at how this shelter units will start to grow around this main this main center from our new shelter camp. So we're thinking of generating small clusters that are gonna start to grow around a secondary center that will accommodate child-friendly spaces and community areas where we can have communal kitchens, places where the kids, especially the younger kids that are not going to school, could have an area to study, to play, but having all the neighborhoods in the watch, paying attention to them. Here we have a scheme of how the main services, so clean water, black and gray water. So we're connecting to the main. We, as a strategy, we decided to locate all of our water requirements on a diagonal continuous line so that it would be easy as access. So we're placing, let's say, 2 rows of shelters, and then there's 1 row of water. We'll see in detail how this is distributed, but this is basically thinking of toilets, showers. We are providing 250 water closets in total. We're thinking in a ratio of 1:3, so 175 for women, 75 for men. There's tap water and laundry spaces. We're thinking 4 main tap waters for each block. These 4 main blocks, each of them have 1,250 people each. And then each of these clusters that now we're going to explain in detail have approximately 80 people. So to go in scale, you have 1 unit would accommodate 5 people, then 1 cluster would accommodate 80 people, and then 1 block will accommodate 1,250 people. So here we have a diagram of how we're dealing with this. So we're thinking there's going to be a public space always around each of those clusters. Then there's going to be the private space, which is going to be the main unit, and then a semi-private space that is going to be those interior patios that we're creating.
Okay, so after Ale talked about the urban scale and the overall plan, we go into the middle scale that is this cluster that we created, also thinking on how the culture is, how the families are there, how it's very family oriented, a lot of kids, but also there's some mix of religions, also having the Muslim religion, women, some of them cover, some of them not, but there's also kind of
culture of having a more private space that they can be hanging around, not only being inside their very small temporary unit, but also not being exposed outside where it's more dangerous for them to be with their kids, or where there's also like some kind of traffic and people going in and out. So we wanted to create this semi-private space that will be accessed from each house. So a house or a unit would have an entrance from the street or from like these accesses, and then another entrance to the patio. So these would all be secure to be able to have like that space that can accommodate kids and women and also men, but they're on like in a more, not this big urban scale, but only 80 units. And so as this shape will also allow us to have the units, but also allow these to grow. So their plot is this space that allows for a car to get in. So if someone has a car and wants to bring it to the camp, they can bring it. If not, they can close and start to like, take ownership of this space and grow into here. And as you can see, this like with their own materials or maybe some materials that we give them, they start to close these spaces and start to expand as they want to. This cluster also would have some stages. The community part, where the community will first build like a structure, also with the help from the city of Mafra carpenters that will bring this wood structure, assemble it together. It's not gonna support that much things, so it has a point foundation of concrete. But then what it's mainly for is to give shadow because of the climate. We wanted to have 2 layers. So the first one is shadow, that it's also like cantilevering from the units and creating an intermediate space. And this is a very cheap material, the shadow net that they use in agriculture camps. So you can find it in rolls, and then you just like with ropes you tie it up to the structure, and then you have that first layer, then building the units, and at the end, having that enclosed spaces that people take ownership of.
Yes, this structure is gonna help us also, like when it's built, people can the families are gonna receive a kit, and the kit includes like tools, like a hammer, some crates, the nails, the plywood panels, and the CGI panels as well. So this is gonna help us, like when the families are starting to build their own place, they're gonna have shadow, so it's gonna be better for them to work like under this roof. Then we did like an instruction manual, like how to build your own place. Like the first thing that's going to happen is like they're gonna go to this warehouse and they're gonna be given these tools. With these structures, like exactly these instructions, and it will be like how to start with the foundation crates, like how to do these crates. That is like you can see it here is like something that we're doing to lift the whole building from the floor. So if there is like heavy rain, the floor is not going to get like wet or with mud. And then we're going to have a plywood panel like on top of the crates. These panels are big. It's not gonna be just for one guy or a woman to do it. They need like 2 people. So that's why we're giving these instructions. And it's gonna be like a collaborative work. Like 2 people could do the whole thing. Then we will give them like the walls, that is plywood panels. They will have like joints like this. Then the good thing about these panels is that they are modular. Like we did like a module, like Yolanda was saying. You can start having this rectangle, and then you can start open it like this. Like you can start like expanding your place, like within 3 months or 4 months. And then you will have these wooden beams on top of these these plywood panels. And this is going to be the structure for the roof. So on top of it, it will be the CGI panels. And these CGI panels, like you can see it here, they will have like an overlap and this overlap is gonna allow us to have like a stack effect, and the heat inside will go like through these gaps between the steel, these panels of CGI. We did like a quantity of how much did we need for this whole thing, and then we did like a budget. The budget will be like around $637, like this unit. This will be like that price, that cost, and then like this will be to be made before. So yes. Also, we want to talk about this will be the latrines. This is this model, you can see it here, is 3x3, and this is going to be like showers, divided on showers and on toilets and wash basins. And this will be divided in women and men, and there's going to be more latrines and washrooms for women than for men.
Our main strategy is that this module can be easily built and it's very cheap. Mm-hmm. So every panel here for the wall and for the floor is made out of this standard plywood board. And the size of it is 1.2 meters multiply 2.4 meters. Yeah. So you can see here, every wall is made out of this, just a little carpenter work. You can get this wall, and this piece we grow on this thing. So we made it easier for a family to build, like assemble it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe one thing is that to add is that they would receive the board, and then part of the instruction is what are the cutouts that need to be done so that each piece plugs in together. So that's why, with the carpenters, that's part of the first stage that we're seeing here. So the family, once they get it, it's already like this. So all they're doing is just, it's like
to assemble this.
It's like a playhouse.
They don't have to cut.
No.
Okay.
It's the carpenter.
And we can see in the budget, the material is very cheap, and the most expensive thing is the labor to hire a carpenter to do this cut.
That'll be the most expensive part.
Just an initial inversion, and then you make a little inversion at the beginning, and then once it's done, it just really keeps going. One thing that we wanted to note is that this is shown right here, and we also wanted to show this type of site plan to show how this could easily adapt to this shape, but if this was square, this could keep growing also. So the idea is that this system, it's easily adaptable too. And also we know that maybe not everyone would think that it's necessary to increase the module when you're in an IDP situation, but we're thinking in case there's a special situation because of the family, if there was an extra member or something, they would want to grow. And we also thought that that would be an added value to the module to have the ability to grow. And that's it.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Well, first, let me have a look. I think, again, I'm going to talk about the strengths, okay, and the weakness. I feel some of the strengths of your proposal are the site selection criteria you have followed. If we're all talking about the connectivity and the how important it's that to give a good response on a disaster, after a disaster. I was also really happy because Sonia and me were talking before we started that we are missing the standards we talked about in the first week when we talked about the sphere and we have felt you have missed them also in the process, and for us it's really a pity because we know you have thought about them, you have decided the plot dimensions or the surface, I mean the square meters and a lot of things following those criteria. Perhaps not everyone and not all of them, okay, but when you were talking about the 1:3 proportion for latrines, for example, that was, okay, that's perfect. So for me, it was also a strength that you talked about. And for the next years, we will ask them to put them on the result, because if not, people won't understand. When they will have a look, they won't know why you decided to do, or why you took some decisions that are really important in your proposals. And well, that's. I think it's the first group. It's talking about the construction kit, and I think it's really good. I mean, because when we have talked about that, and the shadow net solution for the first very quick response, and I think the shape your proposal have, it helps you to talk about that light structure. Okay, because it helps. But now there are also weaknesses. Okay, I didn't understand how the I'm going now to the shelter solution. How do the wall panels fit with the floor and with the foundations? And I don't understand what's the material of the foundation crates. It also plywood?
Yeah, they could be plywood or they could be whatever it's available.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. The crates, the idea is that depending where you are, those crates could be plastic or they could be wood. It's a recycled, where people put their bottles, beers and whatever. That's what we're using. That they're so that whatever if in that area they're plastic, then they're plastic. If they're wood, then they're wood. Yeah. Well, here we put, yeah, it's a recycled, recycled foundation crate. And then we're thinking, well, maybe it's hard to see here, but we're doing this in and out in the plan to give stability.
Mm-hmm. But it's just put on the floor?
No, and then there has L plates.
An L, like an L that hangs like the wall into the floor. Like an L.
There's an L.
Plywood.
Yeah, there's an.
And you nailed it.
Okay. You have
no, we didn't say it.
I was thinking, and how does it fit? Because if not, I was thinking, perhaps the solution. I wouldn't like it. I'm sorry. I wouldn't like it because I think it's not secure enough. It was just to put the walls on the floor, and it would be, well, we are not talking about earthquakes or whatever, but I think I missed that solution. Yes, in general, we are missing details. In general, I mean, that's for the other two groups, okay, and it's a matter of time. We know, but well, we missed that too. And of course, the technical solutions for, again, I'm sorry, for the access to the latrines, how are they solved? Are we digging, or are we, how have you thought about building them? Okay, I don't know if you have a question, an answer. I'm sorry.
We thought that like we were going to be connected to the city, like to these main roads, and we will just have like these latrines will go like connected to this system, and it will just connect to the city. Like that's how we will like to the sewage of the city.
Yeah, but we're thinking like depending on this. I mean, this is built infrastructure for good or for bad. We're thinking that there's a connection to the city, and then this is infrastructure that is added to so that you can connect to the city. So that could be, yes, we haven't decided if it's buried or if it's exposed, but then all the latrines are connected to that there. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, I have one more thing, Sonia. In that case, do you think they will be no, I mean, you will have the solution the first day when they have the shadow? No, that's the thing I wanted you to think about. I mean, and where are they going meanwhile? That's it. You won't have the solution in the first week, the first days, and they will have to use them or to use something. Okay, those are some of the things we want you to think on. Okay, perhaps you had to give two solutions for two different phases. Okay, well that's
They'll have to
having first day, put this one. Yeah, like this is a station and this one.
That's right. For the access to basic services, because you have also somehow forgot it. Okay, that's. Oh, thank you very much, Antonia.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting. Well, I agree with what Belen was saying, and I want to highlight that. I mean, this presentation. I think it's much better because here we can see the different scales, and it is great that you have come to this kit at the end. And what I found very interesting is that you have thought. How it's being constructed, so that you say, okay, first they come in and then they get this kit, and then they will. How they are going to do it, and we will construct this other thing. We have to hire a carpenter. So I think this is very important because the construction system that we will give them. It depends very much on who is going to construct it and how it's going to construct. So it can be like you will need more skilled people or unskilled people, and this is key. So I think this is very good that you have come to this level. So I think it's great. And yeah, I had the same questions as Melen with the sanitation and water points and all this. But I think that most of the groups haven't come to this scale, so I guess it's a matter of time, I don't know, or just representation. I mean, it's like maybe just with a scheme, I mean, with a small picture, you could have explained it. But I mean, and I think it's a good solution. It's a cheap solution. I didn't understand very well the part of the roof that you were saying. If you can explain me again, because you were saying that it's ventilated and so with the CGI.
Yeah. Like between this is 4 CGI sheets, like this, and it's gonna be overlapped. So we saw it in the Nepal example that we saw in class like 2 days ago, and it was like the heat, like the hot air will leave like from the gap between the 2 sheets.
Because you put something in
No. Because there is a gap, there is a hole, like a hole between the 2 sheets, like a small hole between, or like overlap. So you will have like a gap like this, so the air, like hot air, will leave that way.
Structure, yeah. And is it nailed to the structure?
Yeah, it is nailed here to these wooden beams. Yep.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's also very good that you thought about the flexibility, not just in the shelter, but also in the site, so that it can be adaptable to different sites. At least, I mean, to have this thought, I think it's very interesting. And I think it's quite. It can work somehow. So thank you very much. I don't know if you have enough.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
I would like to ask about how did you decide the distance between modules? Because it seems to me like from afar quite generous in terms of public space, and I don't know because it's warm weather. If it's not too much exposed to sun in those kind of public spaces between the different mini clusters, how did you come to that?
These are the dimensions from the sphere. So it was saying that between clusters and between units it needed 6 meters. So that's what we have, the 6 meters here, and then that created this space that it still is 6 meters, but you have in the middle that gap covered by the latrines, and maybe here it is bigger space, but then it's another kind of intermediate. It's in the
around 3.5, so that they would share also that space as open area. Well, it was less than that. But we made an average of how much of this space each of the people living here would use. This is also with the sphere. This is the 15 firewoods that you need between each of the clusters. And then, this is the 2 meters that you need.
And then this is the proportion that you need in between, like, occupied and not.
You say here the numbers.
Yeah. So here it's 140 meters. Here is 18 meters. This is 27, and in total is 45 meters altogether applied. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, I'm Mariel. This is Carolina, and he's Ramon. And we also had Jordan, the Mafraq governorate, specifically Mafraq City, and our case was for Syrian refugees. So basically, what we wanted to understand was how close were we really to the country of Syria, and also to one of the main city, well, the capital city of Jordan, which is Amman. And we are actually at 25.5 kilometers south of one of the borders with Syria. And actually the Mafraq governorate is where there are recently 2 of the biggest refugee camps. One is called Sanitary, and the other one is Asrak, which currently have, well, Sanitary, which is now the 5th biggest city in Jordan, which that was something that was really fascinating to know, is located a few kilometers from Mafraq City, and right now it has around 78,000 refugees, while Asrak has around 40,000 refugees. And what's really interesting in these refugees is that the average time spent here is 17 years. Okay, so anyway, we wanted to still understand a little bit more of the city, and the climate is actually a local steppe climate. It's actually quite comfortable in summer, being degrees, 24.3 degrees, and winter it can get cold to 7.3 Celsius, but the thing is it's really sunny. So the sun is there almost all the time.
Then, continuing our research, we studied the slopes of the topography. We also studied the roads and the connections, and the growth of the urban area during the last century, and the uses of the different urban tissues that we have around. And with all these studies, we decided to place our plot in here.
Sorry. Okay, so basically, if you can see this photo, the city of Mafraq started growing towards the west, towards where the mountains are, and there used to be this restriction here because this used to be a military area, which now is less restricted. The airport is here. Now a new university called Al Bayt University is located right on the other side of the highway. So in between this space, there's like this crescent form that actually has a lot of residual space, and what we wanted to avoid was to put this refugee camp completely outside from the city. We wanted to incorporate the refugees as much as we could. Obviously, we couldn't bring them entirely into like a very urban area, but we realized that right here, where there was this residual space next to actually what is medical, residential, industrial, and institutional urban fabric. So it was a really nice way to actually have these 2 areas that the refugees could have direct access to. And so our urban design strategy, because we have a really irregular shape, it's obviously not a typical rectangle or square, so we started to respect our boundary lines, bringing in those lines into the site, having a central main street or the main corridor, and
having these 2 points of accesses, but then here at this point of inflection, we realized that that was a space where we could actually have the equipment, and this would also help us with our phases and how the camp was going to evolutionize.
So, well, as we wanted to design something very standardized, even though we had like a very challenging and irregular site, we didn't want to adapt our shelters or our design to that. We wanted to create a standard community that by repetition could be adaptable to that site's peculiarities, and then all those irregular spaces between the site and our community would be for services, for communal spaces. So we have 2 main roads that come to our site, but this one is the one connected to the water sewage and to electricity. So based on different phases that our camp could have, as we're going to have Syrian refugees and they may come in the long term, we started thinking that maybe first we could have 2,500 people, for example, and we would have the connection from that main street, but we wouldn't have to fill the whole site. But it was important for us that they would be grouping together so that there would be more security as opposed to dispersed, and that we would have basic services as the medical center next to the hospital, or well, a control and a distribution center, first market, a school and nursery. So as more people came progressively, we could have inhabited, have more communities, more services, have sports area, big sports area for kids, and then connected to the other site. And finally, for the 5,000 people, we will be having 47 communities. Each of these communities would have 16 families in them, and well, we wanted to play with a smaller scale. It was very important for us when designing these units to think that they live in a very minimum space, so that they do many things outdoors, and then they cannot have only a big plaza to do everything. They need to have different scale spaces to develop I don't know, games or socialize, or so they would be having the 6-meter streets between communities, but a 3-meter street inside our community, and a plaza that will be only for the 16 families. And then when they get into that open public space, the space will be much bigger, or the sports center market. So spaces will be opening and being
mixed activities, basically, yes. And as Caro was saying, so the street is quite straight, but it creates these spaces, like residual street spaces, where the families could put their like their little shops, or you know, like the Champs-Élysées that is actually in Satari. We really like that idea. So it was something that would occur all along the refugee camp, so that pretty much that's the space for them to do their economy or microeconomy businesses. So basically the family distribution, we're calling this the Wave 7. What we found out was that there has been 6 waves of refugee movements into Jordan, and the median family size is 6 to 7 family members, but there could be even some that get up to 12 or 10. And also something that was really interesting is that 60% are children of 14 years or younger, or 20% 4 years and younger. And so what we wanted to understand was that these are big families, but they also have small children, so we always wanted to fit at least like a baby in our shelter. So how we started designing was thinking in a 3 by by 3, which is a total of 9 square meters living units as the shelter. And so the ratio we wanted to distribute of the shelter per plot was going to be an average of 1/3, basically. So as the family members increase, family with toddlers, family with kids, or an extended family, these 3 by 3 blocks could be aggregated, and the site would proportionally have that same size as well.
Then we designed the unit itself. You can see the system in the manual, and it's as it follows. We start with 4 scaffolding placed vertically with no foundations, which means that we won't leave a footprint after the future desmontage. And then we join the scaffolds by 8 new scaffolds horizontally and some diagonals. Then with steel net and chicken mesh, we create the facade, the walls of the facade, and we fill these walls with gravel. Then we place sections of PVC tube pipes, places in the mesh to create the windows, and these windows can, as well as every window, allow the circulation of the air and also provide some in privacy, because if you look the window from some angle, you won't see through, no? Then we create the floor by filling 20 centimeters with gravel to pass the first scaffoldings, and then we place a modular system made of polypropylene, which is a modular flooring system, very cheap and very useful for that proposal. Then the roofing is a steel frame which covers and, as we can see here, protects from the rain, and there is another layer above, which is the final roofing system, creating like a ventilated roofing and helping the air go through and refresh the temperature in summer. And also the shape of this roof is modular. It fits the unit, but also can be combined to create the different modules, like 3 or 4 units together. And the shapes collect the water into a water tank, which is very cheap and can be used to wash the dishes. Is an extra water resource because the main is the connection to the infrastructure.
For us, it was very important. These are not fixed. This is not a fixed design. So when a family of, say, 10 members would come, so they can see something. Sorry. We would give them the material to build 4 modules, but not the exact position. So they could build an L, a T, or a square, whatever. So they would become owners of the design and of the space they're going to inhabit as well. The same would be for those PVC holes. They would design if they would like a more rectangular window or a horizontal one, or maybe a small window for the kid down there. They could customize it as they would want, because it's a very easy system that you just pour your 5 sandbags yourself. And your gravel or pebble bags. Something I didn't say before was that in our first phase, we would like to have the Jordans, to avoid this conflict between Jordans and Syrians, to have them working with the cash for work modality. So as they would become very tired, and you cannot just give them all those pebbles to start building their houses, while they are living in a more temporary shelter that would be made as well from the steel framework and the plastic sheets. The Jordans could build or start building these shelters, and then for the next phases, also Syrians take on and continue developing the rest.
Right. Okay, so as Ramon was saying, this is actually it doesn't need any foundation. The scaffolding are just framework. Basically, it's the own gabion wall that is providing the structure, and the idea is that you can dismantle it very quickly in a way that you can keep the scaffolding tubes, take them anywhere, and continue with some other sort of construction, or the same one even. But since it's filled with gravel and sand, you can pretty much just deploy it on the site and leave it as is. So that was also something that we were really interested in, was leaving not only the site untouchable, but making it seem like it was really untouchable because it was used locally from the same place where it was taken from. And okay, so I'm not sure if you're able to see here, but how it is divided is we have those 6-meter streets in each 16 household community, and then in between we also have a 3-meter road for access to the fronts of these houses, having like a central greener area. And we call this greener area because we were thinking of how we could recycle the gray water and irrigate this area. So in this diagram, what we're trying to show is that where the parcels meet, this is actually a wet corridor and a wet corridor where we have the sanitation being the toilet, the shower, and the sink. The toilet, of course, is black water that is connected to the city underground. And for the gray water, which is coming from the kitchen, the sink, and the shower, it'd be coming in here into this septic tank, which will be filtered in this central area and then irrigated towards this more greener palm tree or olive tree area. And as for the water supply, we were thinking of connecting to the city. And this wasn't pretty much an easy solution. We were just thinking, since we're actually in between the city and having all of these like streams on this side, and considering that the city's plumbing and water supply is also taking on this slope, we could easily connect into that. And so here, as Caro said, the modules are pretty much flexible. The kitchen is it's outside, and so Ramon was explaining how for rainwater we could harvest it. So where these roofs slope, you can collect it on a water tank and then just use it directly for your kitchen when it rains. Obviously, when it doesn't rain, well, it's not filled, but you could fill it up and then still contain it in that place and use it instead of going to the sink outside in your plot in this area. But pretty much each household has their private kitchen, toilet, shower, and sink.
And then we finish by studying some details about the construction, how the scaffolding has to be joined to create the different slopes that we need for the roof, and how we can use the strategies that we are developing to achieve a thermal comfort. And as you can see here, the roof is also modular because we use the same piece, you can see it in the manual too, to create different shapes, squares or rectangulars or L shapes, to cover this first layer of the roof.
You can explain the thermal comfort.
The thermal comfort scheme shows that we have cross ventilation through the windows to bring fresh air into the space, into the living space, and then we have also this ventilation over in the double roof to keep the roof in a little fresh air in summer. And also this piece of roof helps to pull the water out.
Yeah, to pull the water out, yeah, when it comes. But we're trying to...
And also we count on the thermal inertia of the walls that are made of gabions with gravel, which has a very big thermal inertia, and will keep the temperature in nights or days depending on the season. Yep. And here is how it looked.
Yeah, seen more as a refugee camp personality, pretty much. But for us, it was like interesting to see how we could actually challenge the flat roofs or the tent roofs and create something that was more dynamic and actually more, maybe even more city-like in that sense, town-like. That's it. Thank you.
First, one question. I didn't get where people were established or settled as they arrived, and what happened. I didn't get it properly.
So
I mean,
they would be distributed in the 16 communities. They would be distributed within the 16 communities in the same way they would afterwards leave, because they would start putting the scaffolding, but the coverage would be this simple plastic, so they would be the vinyl around. So they would take that afterwards and start building with the Jordans the gabion walls.
But were you asking about like the actual location in the area, or just what's the question?
You talked about Jordans, and I didn't understand where people, Syrians, were settled, why Jordans were doing something that I didn't understand.
Okay.
And the construction, that's what I wasn't sure if they lived in the same place.
No. Okay. So the thing is, we were thinking how, in terms of labor, the nationalities, Jordan civilians, could actually start building before the Syrians would arrive, at least just one community of 16 houses located around like here, where a medical area and like one urban equipment would be installed, because we know that the refugees come pretty tired and they obviously won't have the enough strength to build this, even though they could be part of the design. And then because this is actually, it doesn't require much skill, but you could have a little bit of capacitation, and then as the other people start arriving, the Syrians could, like the refugees, could actually start helping the other ones, but obviously being paid. This is all paid labor we were thinking through. But originally it was just a plan of how it could start establishing towards this corner held by paid labor from Jordan nationalities, basically.
Okay, so they are settled since the beginning in the same place where they are going to live after?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Rosario had a question?
No, I just wanted to say to use the microphone, but in fact I also have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I missed it in the presentation, but I would like to ask about the shadow devices, because you said that many of the activities will be happening outside, so I don't see many of those shadow spaces in the render. I would like you to explain a bit more about that.
We take all the activities out of the unit, but sleeping and resting, and we let the families create their own shadow spaces in the plot. So if they need more space for cooking, they can take like 2 squares and cover them, or in this case 2 squares as well, or 1 square, depending on the needs. So the cover spaces would be those what's the name?
Like
tents. Those tents inside the yells and the shapes of the units. And then the green areas, the little oases that we create by recycling the water, would provide some shadows also, and the public spaces.
And as well in the bigger scale, so we divided some of these blocks by this, I don't know how to call it, irregular or
like breaks from the corner.
Yeah. So in the end, they're not open. They're between several neighborhoods, and we were creating markets or linear agrupations that could be covered, as happens in Marrakesh, and for summer and taken off in winter. Our idea was always to create smaller scale plazas between buildings, so that you could feel you're a bit in a smaller scale place with shadow.
Okay, well, then I go with my strengths and weakness, okay? I think you did a really complete site study, and it's really good, even the historical approach, I mean, because you have taken decisions based on all those analyses you have done. It was really a challenge that you decided to choose this plot, okay, as you know. But on the other hand, you have a really flexible module solution that, as you have said, it allows you to adapt to whatever site shape you could have. So, well, that's also, I think, a strength. You talk about phases. Now I will talk about the weakness related with phases, but you have that standard community of 16 lots of families. Okay, that's good. You have different scale spaces, public spaces. As a lot of you, I mean, that's a good approach. I think all of you, or almost all of you, share. But and related with the shelter solution, I think it's really well thought. You understood that you had to think of something to be quickly built, and with the local but materials that were accessible. I think that's really good, and you have tried to solve. Thank you for these kids instructions. Yes. And the last thing on the strengths, it's it's the first group that is talking about cash for work, for example. I think that it's to do somehow it shows that you have learned things. We hope so, all of you. We know, and that you have also brought them to the proposal. Okay, perhaps you should go in deeper. But anyway, you have at least you have it in your mind, so it's really good. Now about weakness, I'm sorry, but it's again the solution related with the services, mainly because if you talk about faces, the same thing I asked the other group. Okay, and that what happens? They are connected to the urban network since which moment? Okay, that's the thing. Perhaps we should have told asked you before, so you could have thought about it. But well, that's the truth. Is that sometimes we don't have, or we don't realize of all the things we should tell you. Okay, and one question that I forgot to do earlier. What are those empty or buffer spaces that are before arriving the main street? I don't know if you know what I mean.
This white spaces.
Yes, what has happened? It was too...
More space. If the camp would need to expand, we would have more space there. We just finalized the proposal with the 5,000 people in the end. That is more space there. Sorry. The camp could be expanded in this direction. It's not much space, but it could gather, I don't know, 3 communities more. We did the phase 3 for 5,000 people. We could have a phase 4.
But we offset it also from the highway. Like this was intentional offset because this is one of the main highways.
We offsetted this one.
So there is a direct access, of course, just as a secondary street. But this was a point where if administration had to move or registry had to move to this, had to move to this end, it made sense. But for now, it was just more of an offset from like a heavy traffic street, and also one that has a direct, like a very in front of your face direct view of the camp, you know. But yeah.
For me, just one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because one of the reasons you gave us to explain why you chose this site was because it was in a really good and somehow central place. But in fact, you are placed. I'll try to explain myself much better. I think this is not a very nice place when you are living, and perhaps you could have got yes, or something like that. I know they have to, if they want to go out of the camp, they have to walk. What's this distance? No, it's not. 150? 150 every day in a empty and not a very nice space.
More like that space. No?
Yes, maybe. I don't know. I think it's a really. You have done a really good effort to get a nice place, and because you had too much space, perhaps it's not so much important. But well, anyway. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think you have done a very good analysis, and again, you have also get into the different scales. So from the site selection, the urban design, and then going to the blocks and shelters. So that's very good. I also found very good that you have thought about the host community, which is key, mainly with refugees more than with IDPs, but both we have to think about it. So it's very good, really, really good. And on the other side, also about the camp closure. I mean, to close the camp, so you have thought as well about what happens with all the materials, more or less. What can we do? How can we reuse them? So I think it's very positive that you have speak about it. And you haven't spoke, but I see that there in your designs that you have thought as well about lighting. That is key in the camp. It's a protection issue, mainly for women. So if there is light, so there are less things happening at night. So I think it's a very important thing that we always have to consider with water, sanitation, drainages, and all the other things. Yeah, I think it's very good proposal. What I also think, as Belen was saying, maybe it's less clear this first phase on when people arrive, because even they have. You say that they have built in before some units with the Jordan and so, but maybe just to define a space where they can set up temporarily some tents so that people can stay there for some weeks or so until they can get into the final shelters. I think would have been nice just to think about that, because I mean, even if it's a relatively quick way to construct, but it takes time. Not so much the construction, but the logistics to bring in all those materials, the scaffolding, to buy them, to transfer them, to bring them in. So even we think it's very quick, but at the end, in the reality, it won't be that quick. So just to have this in mind would have been like a plus, let us say. Yeah, I think the shelter solution, what I found, it's also very good. I mean, the flexibility you're giving so that the people can shape and customize their plot. I mean, their shelter inside the plot. I think gives more flexibility and also a choice to the people to think how they can live. And you've created very nice spaces. So, well, I think, and you have thought about all the details, how to construct it, what materials you need, this IKEA instructions. So I think it's very nice. It's also like the other group that has done it as well. So I think both groups have done a very good job in the sense that think how to construct it, what you need to construct the shelters, materials, labor and everything. So I think it's really good work.
Yeah. I have one more question because I've just seen the budget. You didn't talk about. Yes, on the budget, it's crazy. How did you calculate it?
How much is it?
Yes, it's
including labor.
How much is it?
Pues let's unit. La unidad.
We were considering scaffolding European prices, even though we could not find any local prices there, which we would imagine is cheaper. Yeah.
Normally you rent scaffolding, so it was difficult to find the price, but finally we found a normalized model, which was this one that we are showing. And the rest of the prices, we took them from the price range generator, and also comparing them to the local prices in the area, the ones that we could check. And this is how we did it.
I'd say it's an inflated price from the scaffolding, of course. It's because it's like how we were thinking about it. It's expensive to be temporary housing because you can dismantle and take, but the idea is that you don't dismantle and waste the materials. These are materials basically more of a lifetime because these are really good galvanized scaffolding, the polyprene floor that it could be really taken care of and reused. So I guess the PVC tubes and those things are the only ones, but in that sense, exactly, those are pretty cheap. But the idea is that the framework is something that is actually you can move it. It's portable. Yeah, portable. Yes, it's portable, but it becomes permanent for you as like a material for you. You know, as opposed to vinyl, tents, ropes, and all these things that eventually go to waste. So that's why it's elevated, but we still, I guess that's something we still need to refine and confirm because the prices came pretty high. Yeah.
The one is the one that's 3
Yeah. The 2.5 people. Yeah.
These prices are.
Yeah.
But for the unit for 10 people is better because the price it increased, but it's not proportional.
Per person.
It's
because for 10 people. So that it's not the same.
These are the 4 types of units corresponding to this.
It's unit 2. Unit 2, it's for 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. For 5
This is for 7 and this is for 10 or 12.
Okay.
Okay. Well, nevertheless, I mean, it's like the people to stay there for longer. So if you check the price of a container, or it will be more or less the same. I can tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
It's very easy because it's just to
Yes.
open the
I mean, for an emergency shelter, it's like expensive. But as we think that they might stay there for longer, so more than 2-3 years. I mean, if you consider the price of a container, of a big one that, for example, has been provided to Zatari or Azraq, I'm sure that they are quite this
and the most expensive
5,000 or 6,000 as well. So
which is the scaffolding. You can also always, as Mariel said, you can always use it after the dismontage. So it's a value that it's always there. It's not waste.
But yeah. No, it's expensive, but it's very silent. Now we think it's like we told you, it's really a good solution. Just it was the first time I hadn't realized that we had here the budget so well. That's all. And just to be able to compare, although we know you don't have the exact prices, okay? But well, we are talking about less than 1,000 euros per shelter. The other ones, I think, as you have shared the numbers, I didn't ask you before if you had considered the transport. A lot of things that perhaps they will increase the other prices, okay? So that's we can have an idea, okay? That's right. Thank you really for the effort, okay?
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Carolina. My team is Magali and Elena. And we are working in the country of Colombia. We have the department of Arauca. This department has 7 municipalities, and one of them is Arauca. It's the same name, so we are working in that city. We have a problem in the city that is a flood. And this city had been having a lot of floods this last year because the rainy season has changed this last year in this city, and it have increased. Like it rains in Arauca, here you can see, it rains in Arauca from March until November maybe. So we have a rainy season, a big rainy season. As you can see in the map, Arauca is bordered by a river. This river is the border between Colombia and Venezuela also. So we are like in the border of them. And Arauca have a lot of rivers or lagoons inside the city also, like these ones you can see in the picture. The problem is the drainage of the city is not good. It's full with garbage. People is not used to take care of this, so this is a big problem. As you can see in this legend, you have spaces like low susceptibility, medium susceptibility, and high susceptibility of flood. As you can see, the high susceptibility is the darker one, and there is almost in the half of the city that. Then you have the medium susceptibility areas that can be with a flood in the year, and the low susceptibility areas that are the clearest one. So that's why we started to develop where we can put our emergency space or emergency camp, and we will explain you that.
Hi, so considering this flood area, our study case is considering 5,000 displaced people from within the city. So analyzing the two maps, the two main characteristics we wanted in the new site were an area that was not susceptible to flood, obviously, and that had a good access, because since we are relocating people from within the city, we are not building all the facilities to them, like schools and so on. We are building just the basic facilities for them to live temporarily until they can build their own houses again. So we decided for this site, it's super close to the airport that's here, right above, because of its access. Here we are directly connected to the main road that connects us to the city, and we can are 4 kilometers away from the city, so it's possible to use their facilities for a temporary moment. And we are within the low susceptibility area of flood. And okay, so our site has direct access to the road, but it's not directly in its border, because here are some existing houses and we didn't want to destroy them or disturb them. So we created 2 accesses to the camp. And regarding the main routes, we divided the camp into communities. We have 6 communities, the more vulnerable, the group A, B, C, D, E. So the main car routes, they go around those communities, because we didn't want to have so much traffic inside of the communities, but they're still possible for the cars to pass through. We just wanted to induce the car traffic around them. And each community, as we can see here, has its own squares, and within the squares we put some of the basic facilities for them to live. So each community would have around 900 people, and each of them would have basic facilities such as market, a kids center, because we're considering that half of our displaced people are under 18 years, so they would need an environment to stay. And what else? We have put the markets, kids center, social center, where they can do different activities such as meetings and so on. Here at the beginning we have put this more administrative area where we put 2 distribution centers, because we wanted to share them between non-food items and food items, since they will all arrive at the same time, because it's a natural disaster. We wanted to organize as much as possible the arrival, because we don't want it to be like chaotic. So what else? Here at the beginning we've put the distribution centers, the administration, 1 religious center, 1 health center, and 2 storages as well. So here we have a zoom of an area of those communities. They are divided into 2 size blocks. One is this bigger one that has 60 meters length and per 20, and the smaller one has 46, and around them we can see the squares. So what else? We have divided their arrival, since we know it's a natural disaster, but we still need some time to arrange the settlement. So we've divided them into days of arrival, and the vulnerable would arrive within 2 days, and then 4 days, and 6 days, and so on, until 10 days maximum. So the last 2 groups would arrive together. Even if it's like a very temporary situation, we still need time
to arrange everything and to organize and to receive all the materials. And that's one of the points of being so close to the airport. So if we need to receive any materials, it's like a better access. So regarding the plant situation, I think that's it.
So I will explain you the system that we generate in our shelter. We wanted to hold the shelter with the same piece. We started by a hexagonal grid, and in the hexagonal grid we made the half of the hexagon, and we thought that maybe we could make whole the shelter with the same piece. So we have 3 types of this piece. This piece has two different tubes. One is 96 centimeters length, and the other is 82 centimeters length. And the ones that we will remove in order to make all the shelter, it's the 96 centimeters, and in one, and in the other we remove only one piece of this. So these systems can be can make the shape different. That has some in order to fix this shape, this hexagonal shape, we wanted to do it by a melt with the tube. We melt this tube in the limit, and then we make a hole. And we wanted to fix like 6 pieces or 8 pieces with screws and also with platen. So this platen in ones will be flat. In others will be with angular, and with one angle, 45 degrees. And in another's will be with 2 angles, double angle, 45 and 45. So we made the succession of the pieces, and with this we can make the size that we want for family shelters, for community shelter. We can manage with this piece everything.
So basically, I forgot to say, we have been considering 3 different size plots. One for a family of 5 people, one for a family until 3 people, and a big tent where we can put until 20 people, because if you're not into these other groups, you can be arranged in this settlement. So about the design, basically we wanted to find a piece that was made out of tubes that could turn into this modular structure, and we could grow it more or less according to the needs on the site implementation.
Also, another thing is the roof. How is the cover? The cover will be with PVC. We will have 2 layers. One is waterproof, and this is gonna be in the outside part, and the other one is mosquito net. Mosquito net will be in the inside part. This mosquito net allows to flow the air and ventilation of the shelter. So in here, the mosquito net will be in here, and this is the waterproof.
And another thing we thought about was to elevate all the structure because of the floods, and all the site could be like with water or so on. So that's why we have those stairs. And in the more vulnerable area, that's the one closer to the entrance, they would have ramps as well as the bathroom facilities. And about the latrines and showers, we've put them inside the squares, so they could access from the back of their houses. And
wait. Okay, so the thing about this project is that we wanted to have this produced already, like make a proposal for the government to have this produced, because this keeps happening all the time. So that's why they might need, because like it's an emergency, they don't have anything yet, and they spend maybe more in 2 or 3 years than have this already, build this, like it's easier to build, and to take it away when the flood is cleared, and put it again if there is another flood, because it keeps happening. It's a problem that will be happening the next years. So that's the proposal we want to do to the Colombian government.
And to build this structure, it will take 3 persons in more or less 8 hours. So the idea is that it can be built super fast, and it can be storaged for maybe a next disaster, because the population has been waiting for a government response, and it's not happening in the area. So our idea was to get a response to this problem that the government has not been giving a solution.
So about the sanitary facilities, like it's an emergency. We won't have the time to dig the hole and make all that thing. So what we did in here, like you can see, is like we have a septic tank, something like that, but it's already made and it's in the superficie. it's up of the surface. It's in the surface. Then the bathrooms will be stand in a roadway, and it will be elevated. In, like, can you see here? And a septic tank truck can come and clear this out when that will be needed, but because that will be needed. So we put the bathrooms in the corners, as you can see here, in the main roads, so that will be easier for the septic tank truck to get in. Also, what we did with the bathrooms is that we put like 3 bathrooms in each corner, and this is for the size of the maximum people we have in this place. Is counted. So the thing is about it, like we separated like men's and women's, because we saw also that normally in the 80% of the cases, in this kind of cultures, because normally the spaces that get the flood and they get that things are the poorest areas. So the thing is, in the 80% of the cases, is your own family that can hurt you, or that can violate the girls. So that's why we decided to place them like men's and girls. Also, we have the showers there. And for the potable water, we decided to have tanks. These tanks of potable water will resist the heat and will resist also the rainy days. And these potable water tanks will, each of them have the capacity of 2,000 liters to be filled. So we place them all around the main streets also, so the car can get in and fill them. That's it.
So I think at last, regarding the parking areas, we put them around the perimeters here on both sides, because in both sides we have like main roads, and we wanted to put the traffic more in the sides. And
in order to open and close this cupboard, we were thinking about putting zipper and also above the floor. We thought we were searching, and it's called oriented stand board, and this is a wood material that it's recyclable. It's the rest.
The mix of all the kind of roots they have in the area. So the mix them and make the decompression and make
a conglomerado. Sorry. Yes. No. It's.
Bueno, I think that's it.
You want to tell you something and I forgot? I will tell you. How to fix this then? We were thinking also with the platen, and here will be a hole also, and the permeable PVC will have some ropes, and in there you fix it. Inside. It will be outside. This is outside.
Outside.
Yes.
The shape?
Outside the shape. These holes. Yes. This platen, and then you put outside the
membrane
main. Yeah.
PVC to be protective of the water would be like some
having some holes in the membrane as well, and to fix them on the floor. You didn't say about the kitchen outside.
Oh, we will suppose it.
The gas kitchen. We have, well, we search all the materials we are putting in this. We search and we have like stores near to Arauca, and Colombia can provide us this. And as we were thinking, we wanted this to be prepared also. But what are we thinking? Okay, the kitchen. We found that they sell this kind of kitchens that are improved, that works with gas. So you can place it, like, we didn't put the image, but you can place these kitchens in whatever superficie or place you want. So you can be outside and open your tent, so you can cook outside. That will be easier for them because it won't be that dangerous if they cook with the gas inside. All those are small kitchens, like portable kitchens that you can have. And also will be provided in the government of Arauca, and they sell in Colombia these things, so we can get it in there. That's all.
Thank you. Did we clap? No, I don't remember. Okay, ya hemos hablado. No, we didn't clap. No.
Yes. Okay.
We did. Okay. Sure. Sorry. Sorry. We were concentrated. Okay. First questions. I didn't get and you didn't show the shelter dimensions. I mean, and that's really important because, well,
you can make it bigger and smaller.
But bigger, the width is.
We have 3 dimensions.
It depends of how many pieces you want. We made it by 4. The shelter, the dimensions of the shelters of these units, 34 units plus 18 units plus 15 units, make a shelter of 4.5 meters per 5 meters per 5 meters. Yes.
That's the shelter, for example, for the 5 people.
4 per 5.
4 per 5. 4.5
square meters. We did that only to that because to this. We did that only to this size because our proposal can grow or can get smaller. So we took only the most important because normally the families in Colombia are about this number. We took the most important to explain you like the number of the materials and number of the things. But as you can see in the possible layout, like they won't have beds because normally these flutes can be cleared in 1 or 2 or 3 months, so it's not needed to have a bed. Maybe at first they can sleep in sleep-ins or something like that, and then they can have a mattress, and we can provide them with some options like how they can fix the area, about the people, of the number of people they have in the family.
I just want to ask you, because this is very close, I mean the materials that you're using as a tent, so can you please explain me what is the added value of your design in relation to a normal tent?
So our design, at first we are out of the floor, and usually the tents they're on the floor, and then because of the flutes this would not be good. And here, considering the mosquito nets and so on, we have cross ventilation, and with the PVC we're creating this outside area that they could use as a kitchen as well. So I think those 3 elements. Let's see.
And also the thing is, living in a tent maybe will not be that nice for them because they might spend them like 2 or 3 months. So the thing about this is that they could live in some nicest area, nicest place. And also we forgot to tell you about the triangular shape of the, these triangular shapes are better to keep the stability of the structure also. So they are up, and they also, the tent normally, normal tents are like that. So you can't even get up because you will hit your head, or you will need a bigger tent. Here you will have the space also to create your own area, like your own living space for a little time.
Thinking also to make maybe 2 flats. Sorry. We were thinking also to make 2 flats it has to study a little bit, but maybe to put it the matalas, the beds, you put it in the top area, and then you can walk through this shelter and have here some space to stay there. It's like a tent, but I think it's more. It's better than a tent.
Yes, yeah, it's improved because I think being higher than the floor, having a wooden floor as well gives you. Sorry.
And having the wooden floor as well. And creating this outside area, I think it's a nice area for them as well. So, yeah.
Another plots are think about the measures we need to have for them.
And these pieces are 114, and altogether makes a shape of, in order to transport this, to move this to another place, it makes a shape of 2 meters per 160 meters, 1.60 meters. This is the store, the storage that you will,
and
one shelter of this.
And the thing is, you will have always the same shape to build, so that will be easier for the people to understand how to build this thing. Like intense, normally you have a lot of stuff and you don't even understand where do you have to put these things. So that will be easier for them to understand and to have a life in there, like for the months they are gonna be there.
I have two more questions, and after that I go to the strengths and weaknesses. What's the budget?
Budget? We were, okay.
Did you work on that?
Okay, we were calculating. No, it's not that expensive. No, it's not that expensive. We thought it could be between 800 euros and 1,000 euros by each one of them. But normally for emergency you need a less cost. But if the government is going to employ this same tent by years, that won't be that expensive. And well, it's a middle calculation because we needed to. There were prices we couldn't find that much by the size we needed, but it's in between that.
Now, you were talking that one of the improvements, I don't know, you are proposing, if you compare with a tent, it's that it's elevated. How do you solve the stairs? What are they made of?
Metallic scaffold. We were thinking about something like a scaffold, so metallic stairs. I think it's good. Well, it's the way.
We saw some models that you can put them together and open them up. We were thinking about something like this, very temporary. Like you could open them up, and if we need a ramp, we would like put a module of ramps in these areas.
In this area, we have the ramps also and the spaces for the ramps because maybe we'll have the people in wheelchair or something like that also. So we have to think about them also too.
You have 3 different shelter dimensions or models. Okay, this one, the 20 meters one, is the middle one?
For 5 people, yes.
And what's the 5? That's the middle one. This one.
This is the middle. This is the small one. This is the big one.
And you answered me before that this solution can arrange to the different dimensions that you have in your plots, but I'm not sure that it could be extend, but above all, I don't know if it could fit to the smaller one, or
for the smaller.
It's not possible. So well.
For me, it's easier for the smaller.
For the smaller with that shape.
You got the half of this length. You cut. And you can have a smaller, like.
So it's not cutting. It's.
No, well, okay. No, I need to understand. I don't know if I understand this dimension where it fits. Where does it fit?
In here. Yeah.
Here, but it's the small one or the larger one. I need to understand how are you placing, because I'm not sure if you have.
The length is this.
The length is the large one.
Is the large one. So in this one, it will be less length. So you remove some of these pieces out. You have like this.
No, okay. If that's with length, but what happens with the width? That's the thing I don't understand, because this is the width. Yeah, really. We can remove one of the pieces. Well, look, I think it doesn't fit properly. Well, I don't understand. I don't know if you understand, perhaps.
The thing is that it's missing in your presentation, so you have to put there a different. I'm sure that you have thought about it, but it's not represented there.
You can extend this.
We wanted to make one of them
for the width. For the width, you can extend that. You can put another piece more in here, and then you will have wider. This is wider. So you can put maybe 2 of these in the floor. So 2 of these, like 1 and 1, in here, and then you start to do all the construction.
Now I go to strengths. Thank you for reaching this scale. So that's one of the strengths, I think. I'm sorry. Okay, now I go with the strengths. Thank you for thinking and working on this scale, on the details, because as we had told the other groups, if we can have a look, then we can discuss. And so thank you for bringing these details so that we can talk about that, okay? So simply, I wanted I missed, that's one of the weakness, how we are jumping from this scale to the zoom in, to the complete, to the detail, okay? We could discuss and we could think about it. It's not the issue.
I think with more time, because we didn't have the time to make all the studies, we could give you something more studied, so you could understand those better. But when we were designing, we found out that we could do that. So we needed maybe more time to show you in image and in diagrams, because we couldn't do that.
The good thing is only one type of, the repetition of the same piece, same always. So this is a system, and this is.
We work with 2 pieces. You work with 2 different pieces, the 82 centimeters and the 96, and then you work with them, and you have 3 modules. Okay, that's another strength. I mean, that's an effort to simplify. Although after that, it's not so much easy to ensemble all that, I think. Thank you for also bringing, although we should discuss the sanitary facilities, although we just have them with that sketch, okay? And also, well, there's also a gap from the plan we have, and then we jump to that schemes, but well, that's a strength, at least you have thought about that, okay? And then on the weakness, I just, well, I think that I already told you, I miss the shelter, I miss a section. A section, you know, it's missing, I know, you know, and you had no time because you were thinking on section when we were with you, and now it's missing also. And it's the way we could understand those two layers. Thank you. Those 2 layers, because I don't understand how are you giving the shape to the space for the kitchen, because I don't. Well, it's that's what I'm missing too. Okay, that's we have jumped from in plans, and also without sections, in somehow detailed.
Okay. So, well, I wanted to say more of the same things. So, I think it's very interesting that you have put the sanitation facilities and to think about an emergency solution about sanitation. So it's not like just connecting to the pipes that are already there. So thinking about an emergency solution that can be taken away when it's finished, and I mean, this is the way we're always doing. So I think it's great, and I think it has improved a lot the site with the roads, so that the cars can go in and out of the camp, and everything is reachable by, at least it's possible to reach them by car. So I think this is good. I like very much the diagrams. I think it's a thing that it's very easy to do, and it shows so many things that I was missing in other presentations. So I think it's really good to present it that way. and also to get into the details. I think it's a big work because it's not easy, this shape, and to define it. So, and the same thing as Belen was saying, I'm missing as well to see how you fix the tarpaulins, the plastic and the nets into this structure, how you tie it, how you put it into the ground, what is the tension that you have to do, because I guess you need there some strings or something to tie it. So all this information is missing. I mean, the space that you have there, that you also can have in a tent. I mean, it depends on how you tie the plastic. The only thing is that the kitchen there, I mean, you have to think very well about fire risk, because I mean, the plastic is, I mean, it can be getting fire. Significant, yeah.
PE, no, it's the material. It's the material. PVC, PE, 340. Yeah, this is the material.
Okay, so yeah, so if you have thought about it, it will be nice to show it in the presentation, because it's information that's missing, and it can get into confusion. So, but I mean, you have developed very well your structure. But now it's missing how this structure, that it's an abstract structure that you have put there, how it's connecting with all the other elements, with the stairs, with the tarp, with the mosquito net, with the floor, how it's set up in the ground, so the foundation or whatever you have to do there. So it's an abstract element, I mean a product that you have designed, and now you have to, what I miss here is to see how it gets into the ground. I mean, how do you really put it in the ground and put all the other elements? That I'm sure that you have thought about it, but I cannot see it here, so it's a pity. So, but well, there are a lot of positive things, so, and very good work done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are working with refugees in Arauca. I'm Juan Jose, this is Iñaki, and this is Dani. We are working with refugees in Arauca. As the last group said, it has a really hot, humid climate. Arauca city is located in Arauca, that is in the east part of Colombia. Arauca is on the Colombian border, and it limits to the north with Venezuela. The border is the Arauca River. So here we have Venezuela, and here is Colombia. This is the urban structure. It is important to say that Arauca has 82,000 inhabitants, and the refugee camp would be for 5,000 inhabitants. So it represents like the 6% of the total population. So it is important to say that it could be like a big impact, maybe for good or maybe not. So that's why we decide to choose this location, because it is really close to the urban structure, but it is not in the urban structure. So we are, for example, it would take you 7 minutes to go to the downtown. We are really close to the local airport. So we have like many amenities close. We have markets and schools, health centers. Then we decided to start the urban plan, and we decided to keep it simple, as you can see.
We planned the master plan of the camp in 4 stages. The first one is with emergency tents and group tents. Okay, with emergency tents and group tents, because not all the refugees are going to arrive at the same time. So this is the first stage. The second one, in the first one, we plan to start with the administration center, and where they receive all the material and repart to the distribute. Thank you. The kits and the materials and all the things that the camp needs. The second phase is where the unit starts to being built with a communal kitchen in each row of units, communal latrines, and communal shower and taps. And then the master plan continue growing with some open spaces, and the first units that were built starts to having private services in each plot. So at the end, the main goal is that every unit have their own services, but they are going to still sharing the kitchen.
I want to say that we wanted to keep it simple because it would be easy to build. So if you look, it is like really easy to read the plan. And maybe if we introduce like angles and different kind of, I don't know, curves or whatever, it could take more time, and maybe it could cost more. So that's the idea.
One more thing is that the master plan is near the city, but because of the amount of people, it's necessary that they have their own services. That's what we are projecting, like health center, a school, a sports center, market, a place where they can storage, and some orientation center to women's or maybe environmental center of how it's going to work, and the open spaces respond to the facility that they have in front.
So now that the master plan is a little more clear, we go to the unit and how was it designed. We thought about keeping the proportion from 4:1 on each and every plot. So we planned the modular design in 3.5 meters by 3.5 meters, starting with two main parts, which are assembled by these parts, which are low invasive foundations, which are easy to build, and they are easy to accommodate. Then we make a wooden structure made of mainly beams. Then we apply some plywood panels for the floor. Then there's a wooden structure that it's the cover. Then we add the walls that are from agglomerated panels. Then there's a weatherproof net that serves as a ventilation system. And then there's a textile roof that covers the unit. Each part can always be replaced by the materials that any refugee would like to have. But essentially, this plan allows us for the unit to be replicated along all the camp. We did raise all the structure a little bit because we're in, as the former team said, we're in Arauca, which is a potential flood site. And here we can see an evolution of how maybe the units will grow. I mean, totally depending on if the user wants it this way. But here we have the plot, then we can double the unit, then we can triple the unit, and then we can make 4 units, all in the same plot. So if their families or the inhabitants that are maybe no longer refugees want to stay there, they could make their houses a little bigger. So we planned this camp that will maybe be able to shift into a community that's close to the city, and maybe we were hoping that the citizens could blend with the community of Arauca.
And it is important to say that Colombia is a big textile producer and a big wood producer. So that's why we are using textiles and wood. We have this waterproof textile. We have different kind of wood. And so we design like this kind of manual. So we have like all the parts of the unit, how many parts of each part you will need, and like the steps to join all the materials. So for example, here we have foundations. You will need 6 prefabricated foundations. And for example, number 1, bury the foundations. 2, assemble beams B, and couple to foundations. So it would be easier to, like an easy way to understand the construction process. Then we have the sanitation system. We have like water tanks on this part of the, close to this main road. So the idea is to take the water down to the unit, and then to feed like the toilet and the shower, and then below the unit we have a septic tank, and then a truck would suction the septic tank. So what else? It is important. As you can see, it's like a pitch unit, a pitch roof. It is very simple. You can double the unit, you can triple the unit.
And also, it's an option that maybe in a future they want to divide the plot and have a unit over here and another in the other side. Have that depends of the owners of the plot, when the owners.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Please, the budget. Have you calculated anything? The budget, please.
It's 1,800. It's about 108,000 euros without any transportation, and the ones who want to buy a latrine, it would cost about $400 or $500 more.
And it would take like 4 days to build the unit between 4 people.
1,800
euros. Not including transportation.
Including the collective Latrines, yes, the collective, yes. If each house,
if they wanted to no.
If each house wants to have their own services, they need to buy the tank. It's yes.
It's 800. It's 1,800 euros plus. If the refugee can afford to buy the latrine, it would cost about 400 or 500 more.
Perfect. Now I go. question?
No. Bueno, the water points, ¿la han dicho? Water points?
The water points?
Water points.
They talked about them.
We put it in the entrance.
Next to the road.
Yes, to follow the growth of the camp.
And how do you feel them? The water points? Are they connected with the...
Yeah, with the...
These are tanks, big tanks.
Yes, big tanks connected to the urban city. Yes.
Connected to the urban city.
Yes,
to the net.
To the net of the urban city.
Okay, well, now, I think it has been really interesting to consider the possible impact of 5,000 people related or compared to the 80,000 people population in Arauca. I think it's really good to that approach. I mean, because it's just to think about positive and negative impact. So that's I think that's we already discussed a lot 2 weeks ago about that. So well, they will share with you if they want. I think it's really good to that you have really thought about the different phases. I mean, in the shelter solution, but also in the sanitary and service access to basic services. So that's. And I'm sorry.
Site as well.
Yes, on the site too. Okay, that's and all the phases in the site. You have also thought about that you have to solve and to facilitate the access to the different facilities as they will have to use them. I also think it's somehow it's a strength the simplicity of the urban planning. Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's true. And that you have thought about the sanitation and the water access. That's, of course, as you have heard me, it's really good too. Now, if I think about the weakness, well, it's perhaps the budget, but well, it's not so much if we consider the other one. Well, and we are talking, and we talked about that we are working with people that come from Venezuela, and they will probably want to have as nicest solution as possible. But what I don't share at all, it's the possible expansions you are talking about, because if they expand it to the close in the site, I mean the plot to the side, they won't be able to open the windows. I mean, I suppose you are, and you have that. Is it true? I mean, I think I've understood.
They should put the windows on their front facade.
Okay, but then they will have to remove the whole house just to. Well, I will expand it to the left or to the right. Or now, oof, I have to remove the whole house. No, just if you have thought about it.
Yeah, we have thought, because if once you have the unit here and you want to expand to the other side, you would have to remove the windows. So that windows you can put on the front. Okay, so you take the wall that you want to expand to and use that same wall in the front.
Yes, in fact, the other, I'm sorry, but the main problem is not the one you have in your plot. I mean, what happens with your neighbors? Okay. If they open their windows to the side you are expanding, that it's what is happening, then they will have to remove their house too. I mean, change or reorder. That just one weakness on the proposal. If we want to consider the expansion to the side, they can do it to the front or to the back. Okay, that's right. And I had a question. What's a waterproof net? I don't know if I've understood properly. What's a waterproof net? I mean, because if it's a net just for ventilation, I cannot understand why it has to be waterproof. I don't know if I've understood properly.
It basically works by avoiding water, but you can have the heat to go outside.
Thank you. I have more questions. Okay, that's why. Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay, yeah, as Belen said, I think it's very interesting, all the phases that you have developed, and I think they're quite realistic, actually. And the solution also is easy. I missed there the you have put the site and the shelter. I miss the block scale. I mean, a little bit the one in between. So in your presentation, so to explain a little bit better how they access to the services, how to access to the kitchen, to see the distances, the public space in between. So to see the scale, I miss this in the presentation. Because it's too small, the scale, to look at all the details about that. Also, one other thing is the roof that you say is a textile. I'm quite not sure if this will work, because I mean it's even if it's waterproofed and whatever. I mean, this is an area where it's raining a lot. There are also a lot of winds, high winds. So to have a textile-less roof, not sure if it will work. It's just, I mean, for a first phase, I mean, the first thing, okay, you can cover it, but then after a while, I'm sure that they will need other type of materials. So. But yeah, what I think it's interesting is the type of foundation that you have found, that is something that can be removed in case they close the camp. So it's just to stick in some screw. Yeah, so I think it's interesting. And yeah, well, more or less. And the sanitation solution, at least you have thought about it. Not sure if it will work under the house and so, but well, at least you have thought and you have given a type of solution that can be then developed in future to improve it, whatever. So I don't know if you wanted to say something?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay,
very much.
So thank you, very well done. Thank you.